I love the idea of FNAF max modes. Max modes are the hardest challenges in Five Nights at Freddy's games, whether it's 420 in the first game, 5020 from Ultimate Custom Night, or even fan games like One Night at Flumpty's 2 Hard Boiled mode and Post Shift 2. Post Shift 2 is a very popular difficult max mode, although its difficulty seems to be very exaggerated. See, there's a list for these things. The max mode list ranked the 150 hardest challenges ever completed within FNAF fan games. Post Shift 2 isn't even top 10, or top 20, or top 30. Where is it on the list again? Oh. It's not even top 150. Yeah, these things are hard. Okay, so Push Shift 2 isn't even top 150 on this list. What is? These games are insane, and I'm not even really going to pretend to understand what's happening in most of them. It's hard to look at these things and admit that they should be possible. They feel like something only a computer could ever do. It's minutes on end of perfection, perfect reaction time, memorization, consistency. Now I'm not looking to beat something like this. Not yet, at least. I'm going to be playing something relatively a lot easier, a game called Five Nights at Candy's. That's a game most people have already heard of, and potentially played and completed. If you have, you probably know it isn't that hard, which might come off as confusing after building up the difficulty of all these games, but we're not talking about the original Five Nights at Candy's. See, a lot of the games on the max mode list are essentially mods of other already existing games, usually the official games, to make them more difficult or add some new gameplay to make it better. And that's exactly what Five Nights at Candy's but better is, a mod for the 3 Five Nights at Candy's games that makes them 100 times harder. Let's talk about what the game changes from the original and why it's so difficult. This game basically takes every character from the first game and gives them all new mechanics to make the gameplay more interesting. In the original game, you have 7 characters: Candy, Cindy, Chester, Penguin, Rat, Old Candy, and Blank. One of the biggest differences from the first FNAF game is that the cameras start completely dark and don't take any power to use, but you can activate night vision by double clicking the camera, which does start to drain your power. Also, the animatronics' eyes glow, meaning you can see where they are even when lights are off. Candy, Cindy, and Chester all have glowing eyes, and you just close the door whenever they get to them. Penguin works the same way, except instead of killing you if you fail to close the door on him, he just enters the room and closes your doors at random, draining your power. Blank is like Foxy from FNAF 1, where he moves through 3 stages on his camera before teleporting to your window and attempting to smash it. Rat and Old Candy work the same way as Candy and Cindy, but they're more difficult because they don't have eyes, meaning you can't watch for them and the cameras are at the door. So what does Five Nights at Candy's but better change? Let me take you through a run of 720, which we can analyze and learn from. For the first 10 seconds, you can just do nothing and save some power. Characters can move every 5 seconds, and nobody spawns 2 cameras from your door, so you don't have to worry about that. Once you hit 10 seconds, you want to look at Chester. Chester works a bit differently than you would normally. Instead of just walking to one of your doors, which requires you to close it like Candy, he very slowly goes through these 3 cameras until he gets to you. You can close the door to prevent him from jump scaring you, but he'll never leave. So as long as you close the door, you won't die, but your power will be draining very fast. Just having one door closed might not sound that crazy, but this is a game where you have very little power. If you went on a night with nobody active and just closed the door and did nothing, you run out of power by 3 AM. This basically means if he gets to your door and you have a normal amount of power, you're gonna die. Chester moves every 50 seconds, meaning he'd get to your door before even 3 AM, which we just established is way too early to survive. The way you stop him is just by watching him. Every moment you're watching him, his 50-second timer is paused. The reason you'll want to watch him right at the start is because he doesn't come out of his show stage for the first 10 seconds of the night, and his timer doesn't really start until he does. Watching him at this point does nothing besides waste power. Although it is important to mention that once you run out of power, the game has a power out phase that lasts 15 seconds, so if you power out at least 5:45, you can still beat the night. Anyway, enough about power, back to the run. By 15 seconds, you need to look away from Cam 9 because that's when Old Candy gets there. Old Candy is also a bit different. He works similar to how he normally does, but with the added buff that the longer you look at him on the cameras, the longer he'll stay at your door. So if you watch him for 1 second, he'll stay at your door for 1 second. Fortunately though, that timer resets every time he gets to your door. So it's not like by the end of the night, he's going to be sitting outside your office for like 15 seconds before leaving every single time or something. And you might think, 1 second, that sounds like a nerf. But no, not in this game. See, whenever a character comes to your door, they leave as soon as you close it. Animatronics will make a knocking sound to indicate that they left, which, with Candy for example, you can hear happens the second you close the door on him. This might make power saving sound stupid easy. It definitely helps a ton compared to the original game, where there are no knocks and they take some time to leave. But there's one last thing about that I haven't mentioned yet, and that's the fact that every time you close the door, it immediately takes 0.5% from you. So you can't just close the door and then immediately open it and lose no power. Alright, so after moving from Cam 9 to avoid watching Old Candy, I like to watch Blank for a couple seconds.
Blank practically works like he does in the normal game, but with some small details changed around. First of all, he attacks every 24 seconds. That means players will generally memorize all of his attack intervals to know exactly when he reaches your window, although it's important to note it's not always multiples of 24. He attacks 24 seconds after he hits your window. Not only does he have an animation of him hitting the window, adding time, but just like Foxy in FNAF 1, he won't start the attack until you're watching him on the cameras. This can lead to those intervals getting extremely offset, so you can't fully rely on those times to be accurate. Also, you have to watch him hit your door before he gets to that camera. If you try closing the door right at 24 seconds without watching the camera, instead of trying to smash through the window but getting blocked, he just camps you until you inevitably open it again. You can close the window before he gets there, but he never touches it until you're watching him. So why do we want to watch him here? It's because the longer you watch him on the cameras, the longer you delay his attacks. If you watch him for a second, you'll buy yourself one more second of reaction time, although only up to 5 seconds. This can be really helpful, not just to buy yourself reaction time, but also just time to do other things. Let's say Candy gets to your door right as Blank is about to smash in your window. You can get up to 5 seconds to deal with that, which is more than enough. Now, I'm going to introduce some icons here to show you a prediction of where characters might be. Since they almost all move at a predictable interval, you can have a pretty good guess of where they could end up. Candy randomly decides to go to your left or right door. It's pretty much random every single time. If he goes to your right door, he only has to pass through 3 cameras, but if he goes to your left, he has to pass through 5. If you recall, each character moves every 5 seconds, meaning he can get to your right door in 15. Oh. Well, it's fine, since the animatronics will only jam your doors after 6 seconds of them being there, and kill you 5 seconds after that. So it's okay to keep watching Blank for a second. Now, you should check the other door for Rat, since he starts at cam 9 and can get to both your doors in 20 seconds. Close in on him, and now your timer should be at nearly 24, right when Blank attacks. Wait a couple seconds, and now check Cindy. Cindy is the only character with a semi-unpredictable move timer. She doesn't move every 5 seconds. Instead, she moves off her stage every 25 to 30 seconds, then speeds towards your door. Although I'm not sure exactly how long that takes or if it's even random. When she reaches your door, instead of leaving instantly like normal, she stands there for 10 seconds, draining a ton of your power. The way you reset her is by watching her on the camera for about 1 second, which will send her back to the stage, resetting her cycle. That doesn't sound too bad, but it is crazy easy to forget about her, especially since she really does act like a bullet train straight to your office sometimes. Old Candy should reach your door at about this point. He gets there right at 30 seconds each night. One good thing about Old Candy is that he makes a loud buzzing sound in your left ear when he gets to you, meaning you don't have to check for him on the cameras, and him not having eyes doesn't really matter. Penguin also reaches your door at 30 seconds. He does the same thing as in the normal game. He closes a random door every 10 seconds. He isn't that bad, but can be distracting if you let him get in. Okay, so I had this whole part, it was like a couple minutes long, about me talking about this kind of hidden mechanic in the game. Like, not really hidden, but I don't know, it doesn't mention it, where like characters will interact with each other. Basically, let's say Candy's about to move to cam 9 and he's in cam 2, and Old Candy is there and he's just like not gonna move anytime soon. I believe what would happen in that scenario, that 2 characters cannot be in the same camera unless it's Chester. So I believe what would happen in that scenario is that Candy would be pushed back to his stage in cam 1, I think. So basically, like, the characters interact with each other. So like, let's say like Rat, is in cam 9, tries to move cam 2, but Candy's in cam 2. Rat will just be pushed back to like inside his door. I was explaining all that. I was bringing up a specific scenario when that stuff was happening, but when I looked at the footage, I realized that didn't actually happen. I don't know what I was looking at. I must have been looking at some other footage that wasn't right. I don't know. But I couldn't find what I was talking about, so I just have to redo that. I don't know, man. I hope that makes sense and is understandable. Characters will influence each other basically, and it can kind of really mess you up. I think I talk more about that, so I don't know. This mode takes a lot of reacting fast and remembering numbers. You gotta know exactly when you close the door on Old Candy so that you can remember to avoid watching him when he steps in the room. Instead of looking for Rat all the time, just see which path he's going down, calculate in your head how long it'll take him to reach the door, and close it on him. Remember when Blank attacks, and focus on how long you watch him so you know how much time you have to close the door on him. I'll let some of the run play, including the icons, to show you the prediction on where they might be. I have to say though, this isn't really what I'm thinking while I'm playing the game. I can't keep track of all of this stuff at once. It's just to show you what I could be thinking, since I am usually keeping track of at least 1 or 2 characters at a time. Alright, well, I hope you enjoyed this. It was just a quick deep dive into this cool mod for Five Nights at Candy's. It was a pretty tough challenge, but definitely doable once you understand it. Wait, why is the arrow still lit up when you go to 720? Isn't that supposed to be like the hardest challenge or something? But blood 720. I don't know exactly how I want to go about this. What's kind of nice about Blink is that he'll be very consistent when he attacks on blood mode. I was kind of noticing that I was losing track of when he attacks because it kept being like later and later and later. Because he attacks like every like 24 seconds. It's very strict on blood mode, so it's kind of nice in a way. So I can maybe just add these three to get used to them and not really have to worry about much that's like difficult. I want to get used to Blank and like when he attacks. And then Chester, I'll have to just watch him, which will drain some power. And then Penguin, he will spawn in, so I'll kind of have to get used to reflexes of, you know. Like, this is super easy, but I mean, it's just, we're just gonna start small here.
Make your order.
Thank you, Penguin, for doing that. One thing I like about max modes is their extremely long names. The acronym for this mode would be FNAC 320BM. Like, that's a lot of letters and numbers and symbols. Bro, that was too early. Blood 720 is kinda insane. It's a mode where things like this can happen. Or this. And this. But the only way to go once you beat 720 is up. Transitioning into blood mode is tough. 720's mechanics are basic. You just close the door when people get to them, and also Foxy. But blood mode comes in, takes everything you knew, and destroys it. You were used to Candy only reaching your door every 15 to 20 seconds. Well, now he can come in through your window too, which only takes him 10 seconds to get to. You always shut the door on Penguin to avoid him closing random doors and distracting you. Well, he spawns in your office at the start of the night now. You thought the animatronics had to be at your door to kill you? Rat can kill you from an entire room away for some reason. He just four-strokes you from the hallway, I guess. It is not easy. And worst of all, it's red. I've been playing Geometry Dash for years, and I'm tired of everything difficult needing to be red. And it is an actual buff, too, since it makes the game darker. But I can do this. I believe in myself. Things might seem dire, but all I have to do is get used to the mechanics like I did 720, and destroy these robots.
Her name is Yoshimi. She's a black belt in karate. Working for the city. She has to discipline her body, 'cause she knows that it's demanding to defeat those evil machines. I know she can beat them.
To begin learning this, I started small. I was just going to turn on 3 characters, Penguin, Blank, and Chester. Penguin's only change is what I mentioned earlier, the fact that he spawns in your office immediately into the night. Blank's change is basically just what I showed earlier again. In the original 720, he gives you a couple seconds of reaction time, so that's not unfair. But here, he doesn't even have an animation before he hits your window. It is instant. You have to watch the camera before Blank actually gets there. Chester also works the same way, except in blood mode, you don't have to close the door on him. It's pretty nice. Except for the reason why you don't have to, is because the moment he reaches your door, he takes all of your power, meaning you won't even have the resources to close the door on him. Now, this isn't really a challenge. You just watch Chester, check on Blank every 24 to 25 seconds, and open the door that Penguin closes. With all the information I've taught you so far, this is easy. Only thing is, I didn't know all of that stuff. I knew Penguin closed the door every 10 seconds, Blank showed up every 24 seconds, but sometimes it was more for some reason, and you have to watch Chester. That was about it for this run. I didn't even know you could watch Blank to delay him. Now, even without all the information, it's still not very difficult. I did die the first time I tried this, dying to Blank, but that was the point of this run. Not for its difficulty, but to get used to these characters, since these are the ones that take memorization and muscle memory. After doing that, I moved up to 520. Here, I turn on Old Candy and Cindy. At this point, I knew Old Candy stayed at your door longer as you watched him, but I didn't know it was literally 1 second per second or anything. And for Cindy, I could never understand when she moved, so I just checked on her randomly. I was like a baby back then, just trying my best. The blood mode change for Cindy is that instead of sitting at your door for 10 seconds, she's there for all night. If you miss watching her even one time, just restart, you won't survive. Do you remember earlier when I said that the longer you look at him on the cameras, the longer he'll stay at your door? That timer resets every time he gets to your door, so it's not like by the end of the night he's going to be sitting outside your office for like 15 seconds before leaving every single time or something. Well, in blood mode, that timer does not reset, meaning he will be waiting outside your door for many seconds before finally leaving. This can cause a dilemma where he doesn't stay that long, so if you try doing anything else, you'll just be wasting power after he leaves. But if you do nothing, you're just going to be sitting there until you get killed by someone else. So at some point, you have to make the decision to stop waiting for old Candy to leave and start doing things while waiting for him to leave. And finally, something you may have noticed, just one last cherry on top to really up the difficulty, animatronics' eyes don't glow. You always have to have your light on in the camera to see everything, and you can't just wait for their eyes to glow in the door to close in on them. Not that it matters too much at this point, since every character whose eyes glow are either already in your office, or if they get to your office, you're just dead anyways. Now, I didn't really bother beating 520. Again, it was more for practice and not for the accomplishment, and I'm gonna be honest, it's not that hard. Pretty much as long as you remember blank intervals, you don't have to do very much. What, listen for old Candy, watch Chester, and check for Cindy every once in a while? Tough. No, this isn't difficult. Even 620, say you add Candy, it's still not too bad. It's when you have all 7 animatronics working together does it get truly difficult. On day 2, I started with some motivation. And look, before I show you this, I gotta get the obvious out of the way, already pretty deep into this video. Yeah, I'm inspired by the Bones 5. What else do you think gave me inspiration to create this? I'll just let my old self talk.
Hello. I was watching The Bones 5, which is, a big inspiration for me even doing this. It was the Final Fantasy Candies 3 one, like the Shadow Brown Cat. I don't know, it just kind of inspired me to do this because he was talking about muscle memory. I know muscle memory is like really big, in these kind of challenges. Like it's kind of like really what this stuff kind of relies on in a way. So I was just gonna get on for a little bit, not very long, but thought I would do something at least to practice. So I'm just going to continue with 620, I guess, and then see what happens.
It was a good philosophy to start this challenge off with, since it told me that any amount of practice I can be getting is worth it, even if it doesn't feel like it. Even if I fail every attempt, not getting new bests, I'm building up that muscle memory to play the next day. I knew that 720 would still be too difficult for me. I just feel like Rat would be too hard to add on at this point. Speaking of Rat, what does he do in blood mode? His mechanic really threw me for a loop the first time I played this, way before I was actually attempting it. He's different because instead of closing the door on him when he's actually at your door, you have to close it on him one camera early. So not only does he approach your door faster, since he doesn't have to move through as many rooms as he did before, but it's also way harder to track him because you have to look at the cameras before the door, not just the door cameras themselves. This was just really, really hard for me to get used to, and it made blood mode impossible for me back then. But for now, I'm still doing 620. No Rat. Watching these attempts is kind of funny, really. I'm just aimlessly looking around in the cameras. I didn't know when to look for Cindy, I didn't really know how Chester worked, and having blank on was just poison for me. Most of day 2 consisted of me dying to Blank or Cindy, usually Blank though. It was just really tough for me to remember to check on him while randomly spamming through cameras hoping to find Candy or Cindy. And whenever I would stop to watch for Blank or find Cindy, Candy would camp at my door and he'd end up killing me. For some reason, at some point I just turned on Rat, meaning I was playing actual blood mode. It didn't change much though, since I was still just dying to Blank. Although, when I was actually remembering him, I didn't do too bad. I even got a 2 AM run. I was able to keep track of Rat pretty easily already. The reason I died on that run is a problem that is very prevalent. See, since Rat reaches your door one camera early, that means you can actually knock him and another animatronic off at once. You can hear sometimes with Rat and Candy. They'll both be at your door, so when you close it, you'll hear 2 knocks at once. But that can be confusing with old Candy, since he stays at your door. So Rat can come along, knock on your door because it's closed, but because you hear a knock, you assume it was old Candy, which leads you to opening the door for him to come in and eat you. The way you can prevent that from happening is by listening to old Candy's static. He will always be playing noise whenever he's at your door. So if it's still going on, he's still there. That makes it not unfair, but it is so easy to mess up in the middle of a hectic night. I was doing better on day 3. I was already playing much more consistent. I pretty quickly got a run to 2 AM, which is honestly most of the difficulty of this run. Since the run is the same the entire way through, once you get to about 2 or 3 AM, you can do the rest of the night. The challenge is just actually doing all of that for 6 minutes straight. It's very easy to mess up just once through all that time. But I was definitely consistent, since the very next run went for 2.5 minutes, just dying because I let Cindy get to the door. I would continue to get many decent runs, 2 to 2.5 minutes long. I started to die to old Candy due to hearing knocks that I assumed were from him, and I was still dying to Blank 9 times out of 10. But on the last run I did of the day, I got a 3-minute, 50-second run, which was great for just 3 days in. I continued playing on day 3 after that one session. I ended up coming back later and I got a new timer. You can see these times under the main timer. These are all of Blank's intervals throughout the night, which will be very helpful since I won't have to do the math in my head the entire time. For whatever reason, I seem to be dying to rat almost every single time. I'm honestly not sure why. I guess I was just so focused on blank, I didn't seem to be very good at looking at the cameras when I was trying to do something specific. Instead of checking the surrounding cameras around the doors often, like you should do, I would do things like just sit there until blank attacked, or stay in the office for too long. And even though I had the new timer, which should have made blank much easier, I wasn't doing any better. Actually, I was doing worse than before. The only good run I got was 257, which died to blank. It's raining suddenly. It's a giant freaking black cloud. So if you can hear it, then there's some ambience in the background. Day 5. I didn't record day 4. I kind of messed the recording up today. The bottom left corner is displaying over here and covering up some of the game for some reason. I don't know. But I was pretty quickly losing motivation.
So I was playing this yesterday. I didn't record or anything. And I suck. I'm garbage. I'm terrible. I've just been struggling playing this so much. I'll do a run and we'll talk about it. See, I lose track of rat. I always lose track of at least one of them.
I wasn't really appreciating far runs yet, and since I was getting so many on just day 3, I felt kinda awful. I was just getting worse over time and recognizing the problems I was having. It felt like I just couldn't keep track of rat. I couldn't remember every blank interval. I was opening the door for old candy. I couldn't find any of the animatronics on the cameras when I needed to. Every single one of my runs today was getting about 1 minute in before losing track of a character, whether it be blank, candy, rat, or Cindy. My best run was just over 3 minutes long and died to blank, of course. I ended the session not sure what to do. I didn't know how to get better at the game, but the only thing I could do is keep trying, so I came back later. It started all the same, getting nowhere further than I was previously. But then, just 4 minutes into the session, this happened. I was playing really clean. It seemed like I had a very good idea of where animatronics were. I was checking the cameras on the door very often to make sure nobody was there, and I was checking on blank a lot to delay him. But I still didn't know how to deal with Cindy. But I could just let her sit at the door. I mean, I don't think I could beat it like that. I'll certainly run out of power, but I can try. So I carried on, not caring that Cindy was going to kill me anyway. This allowed me to get to 420 and die at 447. Now, really, I would say this is a 3 AM run, since usually I'd reset once Cindy got to the door anyway, but it showed that I can get places. Of course, Cindy being at the door makes it much easier. You don't have to worry about her anymore, and she literally blocks the right door, so you only have to think about the left door and the window. But I don't care. Not only is a 3 AM run good, but I saw that I could get pretty far theoretically. The only big problem I noticed, maybe partially because I started giving up and really starting to try and save power, is that Chester was very close to my door very early, which isn't great. I'd get another 3 AM run later, dying to candy. My motivation was back up after this. On day 6, I came back with a new strategy. You probably noticed that there are 2 timers on screen. The green one that counts the length of the night, essentially, and the blue one which can be reset at any time, without resetting the green timer. I decided to use the blue timer to keep track of blank. Every time he hits the window, I can reset it, then just check on him whenever it hits 24 seconds again. That'll make it a lot easier to keep track of him, since it won't get offset. Also, I decided to start watching blank to delay him, which will help a lot if I need to do something right as he attacks, and will make him attack less throughout the night. That can be a bit tough, since it takes remembering how long you watched him to do it confidently, but it makes it a lot easier overall. I was also learning to check for Cindy every time old candy came to the door. They tend to line up pretty well, so it's a consistent strategy. Now, while having this timer for blank did help, I was still dying to him a lot. Mostly because I was waiting too long to close the window on him. I was being overly confident about it, I guess. Even though I had all these strategies to get around a lot of the really problematic characters, I wasn't getting much further into the night. I was still pretty happy though. I felt confident that if I gave it enough attempts, I would eventually get somewhere. I did get one far run. The reset timer is right next to the restart the game button, which I hit. I meant to hit the restart timer and I reset the game. Yeah, the button to restart the game is R, and the default hotkey to restart the secondary timer is T, which are right next to each other. Those who don't use a QWERTY keyboard, weirdos. But yeah, I was kind of nervous at 3 AM, and my finger hit R instead of T, so I immediately changed that. I tend to place my hands on WASD anyways, so I just made the W key, and I was actually able to get another nearly 3 AM run, almost immediately afterwards, dying to rat. Most of my deaths were beginning to be from rat, and sometimes candy, but it always ended up with a door getting jammed. I also got another 4 AM run, but again, just because I let Cindy cam my door until I ran out of power. I still wasn't beating it though. Every death felt so stupid. I did have to admit, I was getting more consistent, but my confidence was just very shaky. I wasn't sure if I'd be able to actually complete this still. I don't know if this comes through, but you do have to understand what my experience was playing this. This is my first actually difficult max mode. The hardest thing I had to beat was normal 720 in this game. I used to think blood mode would be essentially impossible for me. There's a reason I never actually tried it after completing 720. So I would get on every day, at first just to see if I could learn it, to see if I could get used to it. And very surprisingly to me, I was, very quickly. Getting okay runs by day 3 is so much faster than I could have thought to progress. But even though I was playing the game consistently, practicing, learning all these new strategies to make certain characters easier, what felt like cheating using this timer so that I didn't even have to think about blank basically, I was making zero progress. I wasn't doing any better than I was before I learned all this. If with even all of that, I could sometimes get halfway through the challenge, how in the world was I supposed to do it for the second half? And how was I going to do before spring break ends? Oh yeah, did I mention that? Just to add on to this all, I was doing this over spring break, which gave me a lot of time, but also basically gave me a time limit of before I had to go back to school and work. Today was Tuesday, just 2 days away until I had to go back on Friday, and I was going to have to be a lot more consistent, especially considering I could get very, very nervous 5 minutes into a run, making it really easy to choke. I feel pretty confident that I can do this. I don't know if I'm going to beat it, but I'm going to do the best I can. I'm happy that I'm clearly getting more consistent, because it went from like not even being able to get to 1 a.m. now getting to 3 a.m. like a few times. I think I'm going to be able to beat this soon. I just got a new best run. I got like a 357. I mean, it was pretty good just for something random. Yeah, old candy's late. I can't do this anymore. I had a freaking good run at the start, but then that was the only one, and I'm probably just too tired. So I'll come back tomorrow. I feel like I'm just not learning anything. It's like I keep doing the same stuff over and over and over, and I don't know how to get better. It feels like I'm not even trying. Maybe there's some way I should like practice more or whatever. Like practice each individual character more. Take someone off and just practice that, and then put them back on and try to remember them. I don't know. We'll see what happens. I don't know. On day 7, I messed up the recording again. I don't know how this keeps happening. I decided to actually practice today though, starting by taking off rat. I'm terrible at practicing, especially in Geometry Dash. It's been bad for me for years. I always think, 1 step backwards for 2 steps forwards. Oh, but I'm so close, I don't want to waste time. Anyways, I got to about 4 a.m, which is difficult to decipher from this footage, but I guess I decided it was good enough for me, because I went to Blood Mud after that. I did get a real 3 a.m. run though. I didn't die within a 5-second range of it. And, at the beginning of day 8, I got a new best, 340. Although I died to Cindy, Chester, and Rat all at the same time. Chester was already at the last camera, then Cindy got to my door, and Rat jammed the door so I couldn't close it. So that was cool. Chester was a character that worried me, since I had never gotten that far into a night. I had no idea if I was watching him enough, or if I needed to focus on him more. There was no way for me to really tell until I either beat the night, or he reached my door. I was scared that I'd get to 5 a.m. and he'd already take my power. But I was playing well that day. I was consistently getting runs into 2 and 3 a.m. I even technically got a 5 a.m. run after letting Cindy camp me again. I barely passed 5 a.m. before being jump scared for being out of power. But then, the attempt immediately after, I got a real good run. The timer read 4:12 when Candy smashed my window. My first real 4 a.m. run. I was learning, I was consistent, I was understanding it. I was happy after today. It was still annoying to die to things like just forgetting to check Candy at the window multiple times. That's what I was dying to a lot, but I could see the end. Knowing today was Wednesday, and I only had tomorrow left to beat this, it all led me to come back later, where I got another 4 a.m. run, although technically not as far. And every attempt was lasting minutes. I don't know exactly how I felt at this point. I, again, was admitting that I was getting more consistent, but still had this doubt in myself, that I just couldn't do it. I was making the same mistakes I had been for so long, even though I got to 4 a.m. again. There was always something that would stop me. 4 a.m. is great, but I still didn't know if I was going to survive Chester or if I was even saving enough power to beat the night. What if I have one chance at 5 a.m. and just ruin it? I knew tomorrow, I was either going to have to play the most serious I ever have, or get very, very lucky.
Those evil-natured robots, they're programmed to destroy us. She's gotta be strong to fight them, so she's taking lots of items.
No. No, 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 no. I was so nervous, dude. Oh my gosh, my heart's beating like so fast. I can't believe Candy got in. That's literally, if I just had more power. I got far, at least. I mean, it gives me confidence. I'm gonna go again. Confidence, but also worries me that I'm not gonna be able to do it again.
Can I take your order?
Dude, I'm like shaking too much to like do this. I was nervous. By 5 a.m., I was over 6% behind in power. But that was okay. All I had to do was stretch that 10% I had for as long as I could, and as long as I powered out after 5:35, I would be okay, since the power out sequence lasts 25 seconds. I was terrified, but it was doable.
Can I take your order?
6 seconds away. I was avoiding Cam 5 so that I could hold off playing as long as possible, but ended up forgetting about Candy. Once again, Candy broke through my window. I don't know why Candy was getting me through those windows so much. I don't think I even realized how much he was killing me like that, but every time, even to run 13 seconds away from completion, Candy would smash my window and kill me. It is 1 a.m. and I'm editing this video. I did the math. Didn't take much math, I just saw how long it was. But that run was 5 minutes and 41 seconds. So the only reason I died on that run is because I thought that the power out phase was only 15 seconds when really it's 25 seconds. So I could have beat it, that attempt, really. I should have beat it. Like, there's no reason I shouldn't have. Like, literally, I was in the clear at that point. I just thought that I wasn't, I guess. And I was like 4 seconds away from beating it. Yeah, I mean, it's just to add some context, you know? But like I said, after dying, my confidence was up. That's a clear sign that it was possible. The rest of the session, unfortunately, wasn't notable. I decided, since I wasn't really getting anywhere, I'd take a break and come back later, to grind it out as much as I possibly could before I went back to school and work. I had remembered another thing the Bones 5 said in his Hopeless Pursuit video. He wasn't living in a movie. He was also on a break from school, which gave him lots of time to play that challenge. But just because he kind of needed to get it done before going back, it didn't mean he was going to get that opportunity. It isn't a movie. I was thinking about that all of day 9. And once again, just a few minutes into the session, I had a chance.
Can I take your order?
So, I kept going.
Can I take your order? Can I take your order? Can I take your order? Can I take your order?
I beat it. Please. That should be it. That should be it. Thank you. Oh my gosh, I beat it. Oh my gosh. I'm gonna look at the recording. It's not gonna be recording or something. I was recording. Oh my gosh, I beat it. Oh my gosh. It's recording, right? I cannot believe it. I just beat it, dude. I cannot believe I just beat it. Dude, oh my gosh. I'm so nervous. Oh my gosh. I cannot believe it. I know I'm not much of a reactor. You can't really perceive my pure shock after beating this from just the way I sound. I was shaking really bad. I hadn't been as nervous as I was for that run in a very long time. I don't remember the last thing in a video game that made me feel like that. It was so much different from what I'm used to. Most tough things I do in gaming is not 6 minutes long. Not even half that length. The whole minute I had to process that I was in the last hour, the fact that I still had to look at and remember so much stuff, knowing if I slipped up a tiny bit it'd all be gone, and knowing it was the last day to complete this challenge optimally, it was eating me up. But I did it. I completed something that just seemed impossible to me, basically just because I felt like I probably could do it. It's so crazy to me that I did it so fast as well. Barely over a week for something so difficult. I honestly think if you try hard enough and just try in the right way, like where I was searching for new methods, strategies, looking at guides and practicing individual characters, playing basically every day, you can do anything you want. If you really wanted to beat a list mode, just as an example, you can just start doing that. Dedicate time to it, learn about it, do things to improve your general skill. It's fun, it's rewarding, it's possible. It is possible. Alright, make sure you rate this video 5 stars.